Hi guys, and welcome to a review that I've been a long time wanting to make because I've been buying the IEM slowly, and that has to do with a full ISN range. There is one more IEM, which is excuse me, the D02, which is over here, which I have not put into this equation only because this IEM has been discontinued. But the rest are still available. And I'm talking, of course, of what? I'm talking of the D10, single DD, H30, 1 plus 2, H40, 1 plus 3, H50, 1 plus 4, and the EST50, which is a 1 plus 2 plus 2. In this review, there will be a certain amount of, I'm not going to focus only on the H40. I'm going to focus on all of them because this is a kind of a comparison of all the IEMs that ISN makes. But there is a little bit more attention that I will be perhaps giving to the H40 only because I never reviewed it by itself. And I think it makes sense so that you can better understand. Okay, let's see if I can break all of this down and explain and convey as good as possible what I want to say about ISN. First of all, ISN started out as a cable manufacturer. And then back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, they started delving into the earphone game. They started off with the H40, which was initially a 1 plus 2 from what I understand. And then later on it evolved into a 1 plus 3. And much like Panon, they have a particular sound. So all of these IEMs here are IEMs that have a specific house sound. That specific house sound is always a very well executed bass signature. And then with mids and highs to match in different levels, okay? But if there's one thing that is unanimous about all of these IEMs, it's the bass. The bass is very well done. The other thing that's very particular about ISN is they have this desire to make the IEMs musical. So much like, for example, an IEM that I recently reviewed, which was the Venture Electronics CA, this is about listening to music and enjoying the music and not being after what is the most technically proficient. So if those of you that are listening to me, well, I would like that everybody would listen to me, but if those of you that are listening to me are people that are more technically inclined or people that are after the technical aspects, can I pick up on the last twinkle and sparkle and so on and so forth, then perhaps these IEMs are not the ideal. Although having said that, they are very capable technically. I mean, there will be IEMs that are more technically proficient. But the reality is, considering the tuning method that they've utilized, which is this kind of old school, like I like saying, it's like the 70s, 80s kind of home speaker kind of sound, big home speakers, big woofers, big, bold, brash sound with this kind of atmosphere of a home, of a closed venue. These speakers are these speakers, excuse me. These IEMs are not IEMs that are going to give you that planar spatiality, that nothing. No. This is about being musical, enjoying the music that you're listening to, bringing a grin to your face. Another IEM that comes to mind that does that as well, and I very much enjoyed it was the latest HIFIGO MS5. Clouded, well, not clouded, but obviously, as is always the case, you can't please everybody. But there were some people that were a bit worried about its over energetic feel. But once you've selected the right combination that works for you, that IEM is absolutely amazing. It's amazing. If there is a downfall, or if there is an issue, or if there is a problem, maybe the price, but hey, you know what? It's an amazing IEM. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about ISN. So I think I've set the stage of what ISN is about, okay? Let me now break down every one of them. D10, this is a single dynamic, nice little resin shell, okay? Nice little resin shell. It sports a 9mm driver. And, it's an IEM that has that old school timbre, like I said. It's got amazing note weight. The bass on this thing, the tonality of the bass, how it's balanced, it's fantastic. It does convey then to the vocals a certain richness, a certain lushness that is very engaging. Personally, I didn't find any hints of sibilance. It's all about being very musical. The D10 is about being very musical. If there's a drawback on it, it is its price, which is $149, which in today's current market, it is a tough one. It is a tough one, especially when you have something called the Venture Electronic CA, which offers this. And in my opinion, and again, let me just say this is not a comparison so much with other IEMs, but an establishing of positioning of the ISN IEMs. But if I have to compare this with the CA is a better IEM, okay? But they both have that very typical old school sound, where musicality is the main idea. Yes, of course, it's not only good points, there are bad points. When you have this amount of bass, you are going to have a little bit of bass bleed, and yes, vocals, especially females, might not come across as good as you would probably like, although they are nice and musical, they are, rich and so on. That big note weight on the bass can also reduce some of the cleanliness in terms of the bass hits. So the bass is not a BA bass in terms of its hit. No, it's a little bit more woolly, although that's not the best word for me to use, but I think you can understand. On occasions, the mids can be a little bit dark, because it's very much a V signature. I mean, out of all of these, this one will probably be the one that has the most kind of traditional signature, okay? And then in terms of its technicalities, again, because of the amount of bass that you have, it's not gonna shine. It's not gonna be the one that has the biggest sound stage, or the most correct imaging. No, what it does, it's fine, but not fine for the price. Okay, there are IEMs which are significantly cheaper that have better technicalities than this have. I mean, technically, a zero from 7 Hertz is a better IEM than this. But now, what the zero doesn't have is this musicality. Period. This has a musicality which is unreal. Okay, that's just for you guys to understand. Next, H30. This was one of the more recent launches from ISN, 1+2, and uses a 9.2mm beryllium coated driver, a Sonian BA, and a Knowles BA. What this thing has, first and foremost, is a very, very good price. $129 for this level of build quality. The finish, the accessories, everything. I mean, in that aspect, if there's one thing that ISN always, or most of the times, will give us is good quality accessories, good cables, everything. I mean, most of the IEMs that are here in front of you, well, except for those two there, those are not the stock cables, but they're also ISN cables. But usually they bring S8 cables, which is an amazing cable. Works amazingly well with the H40. I think it's the best cable for the H40. Works really well as well with the EST, although I've got the new vocal there. And let me tell you something. I'm not a cable believer. I really am not a cable believer. So when I'm impressed with a cable, or when a cable is able to impress me, that speaks a lot for that cable. The vocal on the EST, top notch. Trust me. If you've got an EST, you have to really spend the $70 that cable costs, which isn't a lot of money for the quality that it is. I mean, the only thing that personally I find questionable is the look of the accessories. Okay, the look of the accessories for me is questionable. I don't really particularly like the look of the accessories, but what it brings to the sound of the EST is very much noticeable. I notice it very well. Okay, but anyway, I'll get to that in a second. So back to the H30. It's about a more neutral kind of a signature. On paper, on graph, when I show it to you in a couple of minutes, you will see that and the EST actually graph kind of similarish. So it's kind of a more neutralish, warm signature. It's got a very natural reproduction of the mids. The mids are done very well, especially when you consider it's only two BAs helping out. The coherence, this is very much like my own collaboration, the XINHS Erasmus. They have done a very the coherency here has been done very well. Only occasionally in the highs do you feel that it's just a little bit too much and it steps out just ever so slightly. But in terms of the matching of the drivers here, top notch. They've done an amazing job. Okay, so it's got a nice fast attack on the bass. It doesn't go as deep as any of the others. Okay, but it's got a nice punchy fast attack on the bass. Good mid bass, decent enough slam. Matched with a very nice snappy treble, okay, that only occasionally does it kind of show off a little bit of its BA timbre. The mids are excellently, very well done. And then, the whole timbre the comes across, in my opinion at least, very nicely done, okay, very, very nicely done. The timbre and tonality are very nicely done. What are the less positive points? It doesn't have the typical ISN bass thickness, okay, which could be an issue. The dynamics, because of the way that it's been tuned more to be more mellow, can be a little bit, they can leave a little bit to be desired. You want sometimes a little bit more engagement, but this is supposed to be more the relaxed side. So I guess you can't really point the finger too much. Then it's that the other negative little thing that it has is that issue with the treble, that sometimes that sparkle can be just a little bit out of context. And then, of course, being more neutralish, although the timbre and the tonality are good and are fine for me, I think some might find it a little bit boring, or might find it a little bit bland, okay? But that's that. Okay. On to the H40, okay? H40. 1+3, 9.2 millimeter dynamic driver, 3 BAs, one of them being, well, the BA for the highest being custom. This is the first one that has a slightly bigger shell than the previous two models that I showed you. But as is the case with the previous two models, the fit on the D10 is amazing. The fit on the H30 even more so, because it's got a nice long nozzle, so I can really put it inside nice and deep. By the way, I'm using the stock tips because the stock tips really are the perfect match for these IEMs. I really, and believe me, when I say I tried different tips, I tried different tips. So H40 in terms of the physical aspect of things is perfect, no issues there. Fits nicely, isolates well. It's really nice. Onto the part that you all want to know: what does it sound like? It's musical. It's got this thick bass that is very fun. It's got the it's big, it's rumbly, it goes really deep, but it never loses definition and it never interferes with the mids. And that's where, that's one of the things that surprises me the most about ISN and Penon and about how they tune the stuff. It's how well they do the bass. I don't know what kind of voodoo they use there, but they do some magic that they are able to provide this thick bass with really, that when you look at the graph, at least you say to yourself, oh my God, this is going to be a mess. And then when you listen to it, you are so pleasantly surprised, because it doesn't interfere into the mids. It doesn't cover into, nothing. Beautifully, it's a fun, musical, thick bass with great timbre, great tonality. The low end is just unreal. No sibilance, no harshness. There's really not much that you can say is a negative point, honestly. You listen to things like, for example, I'll give you an example of a song that I like listening, and I actually listen to it on all of these. Hit on Me from Selena Johnson. On there, it sounds big, thick, but it's kind of like I'm trying to find here an analogy. It's like a good V6, but it's a V6 that is more old school in its technical approach, okay? I know there's analogies with cars, perhaps sometimes not the best, but I'm trying to convey, I'm trying to explain what I'm trying to say. The H30 sounds like a good four-cylinder. It's like a really good four-cylinder. It's nice and so on, but you listen to Hit on Me on here, and you got a V8. Period. End of story. You got a nice V8 here. You got a nice, good old-fashioned American V8 with all that, that cam limp, everything with headers. You got the 9 yards on there. It's really, really something. The bass on here is tremendous, and I think, although graphically this kind of seems more similar to the H50 to a certain extent, I can understand why people say that the H40 is kind of the basis for the EST in terms of the bass. And when I get to the EST, you'll understand. The treble can sometimes be a little bit dark, but honestly, I didn't find it that way. I found the treble to be suffice. I would have liked a little bit more sparkle here and there. I'm not going to deny. I mean, especially Elephant from Carol Duboc, a little bit more would have been nice, but it never offended me. It never made me feel like, no, I had to equalize it, which I seldomly do, mind you. And yeah, that's it. Negative points. Obviously, the technical aspects will suffer because, I mean, with having this much bass emphasis, or this really thick bass, although it's a good quality bass, it doesn't help out with imaging. It doesn't help out with the micro details. It doesn't help out with the soundstage. The soundstage is okay in terms of height, but not very deep. It is a bass that, although well done, it can sometimes, and for some people I guess this would be the case, can be even lacking a little bit of resolution, of separation. But again, as I said in the beginning, if you are listening to this review, if you're watching this review, and again I repeat, I would like everybody to listen to it, it's because you like the ISN sound. It's because you like the Penon sound. And the Penon sound is all about that. It's all about the bass. I know this might sound like I'm not being fair to Penon, or to ISN, but no, it's about a really well executed bass that's matched with really well executed mids. Those 2 points on ISN IEMs are always faultless, in my opinion, faultless, and they actually, not only do they shoot way above their price tag, but they can teach a thing or two to other brands. Anyway, so technically there is the main thing that you will lose out on the H40. It doesn't, it's not going to be, I mean, compared to the H30 is a more technically inclined IEM. It will give you more details, more, and yeah, that's basically it. Worth mentioning as well is, if up to now, and even with the other two, I didn't find them to be any issues with what source I picked, and usually, I love my Frankenstein monster. I usually use the topic, the NX7, with my AP90 from J. Kelly. This is using the AKM 4493. Some people like it, some people don't like that deck chip. I personally think it's a great deck chip, so I usually use it with that. I also usually use it with my Shio. I've got another NX7. I know, I've got serious problems. I also use it with my Shio, which uses the CS43198. Okay. I have also got another 43198, which is on the on the J. Kelly AP98, but for some reason on here the execution, I don't know, it could be just me, but it's not as well done as on the Truth Ears. And then I also got my M15. Okay, and all of this talk to say what? This combination, okay, with the ESS on there is amazing. It just works so good. So if you guys, any of you guys out there, if you've got an H40, and if you happen to have, go and go buy it. If you happen to have an NX7, you happen to have a M15, give this combination a go. I know you will be impressed. Oh, and as I mentioned in the beginning, the S8 on here, the S8 cable works very well, very well. Next, one of my favorite IEMs from Well, I like them all, to be honest. I mean, to be fair. But one of my favorite IEMs from ISN, the H50. Over here, I've got the S8 cable. Love this cable. I mean, it works really well. It works really well. I've had the S8 on here. I've had the S16. I've had most of ISN cables on here, except for the really expensive ones like the AG8 and so on and so forth. But this one, out of the more cheaper alternatives, works beautifully, beautifully. What can I say about this? Full, the bass, the sub bass is full. It's because it's been slightly toned down as compared to the H40. It's got that little extra polish that sometimes you feel might be lacking over there. Okay, the execution of the BAs here is beautifully done. You've got this very, very soft pinna gain, and then a rise, which again is not too abrupt. The BAs, the way they've worked the BAs is been, in my opinion as well, very well done. So what do you get? You get these mids, which are warm, because you have that bass that comes from behind complementing them, obviously. There is a little bit of bass bleed, but again, this is a characteristic of ISN. But that bass bleed actually adds to the equation because of the fact that the mids usually are very, very, the mids, that area there between, let's say, 700 hertz up to about 3K is usually more subdued, so it actually helps out, giving that lushness, that warmness, that nice feeling of grandeur, let's put it that way, of seriousness, like you're listening to something really big. Okay, the treble is very, I mean, if that has got, let's say, a subdued treble, more relaxed, this has got a high energy treble, and still by high energy, it's high energy by ISN standard. I've heard IEMs that have way more treble than this. I mean, the MS5, like I mentioned earlier, the MS5 has got way more treble than this. Although, as I've mentioned as well on my review of the MS5, this IEM and the MS5, they sound more similar than what you would think. And I think that's partly one of the reasons why I actually enjoyed the MS5 sound. In terms of its technicality, it's very wide soundstage. I mean, it's excellent, really. Excellent imaging. The vocal clarity is there as well. It's perfect. The timbre and the tonality, it's perfect. Really nothing. This is a newer tune that ISN tried, and you could say that this is a refined, a more polished up H40. When you see the graph, you'll see what I mean by that. And it's fast, it's clear, it's very physical in the way that it's capable of putting the mids out. You feel that you are in the presence of whoever is singing, male or female. It's very there. Again, going back to that song that I was mentioning you just now, Hit on Me by Selena, you feel like she's there in the room with you. That's how well this can Mediterranean Sunrise from Andrea Razzulli. It's just an instrumental, beautifully. I mean, Tin Pan Alley from Stevie Ray Vaughan, fantastic. Again, what are the maybe not so favorable points? Keeping in mind again always that when we talk non-favorable points, it's for those of you that are very more technically inclined and want all the, no, it's the fact that if you have this much bass, you can cloud some of the ultimate and last bit of detail in terms of detail retrieval. You can cloud a little bit some female voices. I mean, a voice like let me see. A voice like, for example, Vanessa Fernandez can sound a little bit lacking life, but a voice on the same token, but a voice of I just had a blank. A voice like the voice of Hit on Me. Where is it? I'm trying to find the name of of Selena. Her voice, because you have that slight laid back mid. Her voice, because it's a really powerful voice, comes across just in the right amount. Comes perfect. If there was more mids here, you probably wouldn't like to hear it because it would be too forward. So yeah, that's basically only the really two flaws there is that female voices, some of them can sound a little bit too lacking life sometimes, and it's all basically down to the bass. That's the real issue. And then finally we have the EST50, okay, their tribrid. I mean, what can I say? If up to now we were using, well, this was 10 millimeter, no, sorry, 9 millimeter, 9 millimeter. The H40 was also a 9 millimeter, so all of these were basically 9 millimeter drivers. The H50 was the first to use a 10 millimeter composite driver. This uses a 10 millimeter silicon driver, which, once you've heard the MS5, and I keep going back to the MS5 because the bass on there is fantastic. And it was unanimous. I think most of the people that have heard it are going to concur with me. And I think a lot of it is down to that silicone driver that they're using, okay? And they use a silicone driver as well in here, a 10 millimeter silicone driver. And to sum that driver in one word, it's tremendous. The bass, I mean, if there is been a progression in the quality of the bass, good bass, fun, okay, good bass, cleaner but a little bit less, loads of bass, okay, but kind of went a little bit darker, loads of bass but toned down just a little bit to make it all, come out in the perfect amount. This has got the best bass of all. Simple. It's got all of the qualities of the H40 in terms of its big, bold bass, but with the quickness of that, it's got tremendous musicality when it comes to bass. It's fast. You don't feel like you sometimes do on the H40 that a little bit more, a little bit less bass would have helped out with separation and would have given it a little bit more of a dynamic feel. It's perfect. The bass there is perfect. It's a very refined bass, very refined treble. I mean, the mids are full. They've got their own kind of, I'm not going to even say life because life is not the correct word, but it's a very well executed IEM in terms of bass, mids, and highs. Okay, technicalities are amazing. There are IEMs, there are other tribrids that will probably be more technical. I could probably say three or four that are probably going to be more technical. I mean, the Blessing 3 is probably going to be more technical than this. Is the Blessing 3 as fun as this? No, it isn't. Forget it. Another one that's possibly more technical than this, the Hycenia Mega 5 EST, also a tribrid, although the Blessing 3 isn't, so I apologize for that, but you understand what I'm trying to say. But the Mega 5 EST, there's two models. There's the older one and there's now the newer one, which I've actually just received, and that's a surprise for you guys. That's going to be a surprise. But anyway, talking about the older one is probably more technical. The EJ07 is probably more technical than this. But the technicalities that are there are amazing and are on par, in my opinion, for the price that is being asked. And I'll get to the price now in a second. What are the flaws? Okay, I would have liked to have seen a little bit better accessories on this. For the price, $459, a little bit better accessories would have been nicer. It's a pity that this cable didn't exist when these came out, because I think this cable is the perfect match for the EST50. And honestly, that is really the only real two flaws. It's better accessories, better cable. As is the case with all of ISN IEMs, okay, all of them. They all seem to benefit from burn-in, which is something which I personally don't wholly believe in. But the reality is I have seen changes. Not so much on the D10, not so much on the H30, but definitely on these three, on the H40, H50, and EST. I definitely saw improvements as the IEMs played and burned in, and more hours was put on them. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think I've basically said it all. I mean, we have a very full, very complete range that I think will please most people out there very well, looking obviously for this particular type of sound. This is perhaps of all of them the one that's the most outdated. out of the remaining 4, this will please someone that wants the house sound of Penon and ISN, but wants it with a little bit more subdued bass and more technical, definitely. This one will be the one that likes that house sound, but wants it a bit more bass heavy. This one is the one, maybe this is like the 50-year-old, or if I go back to the analogy of the car, that's a V8, but it's a more upscale, more refined V8. Maybe that's like a kind of a V8 from a German car, which is more polished up. Okay, it's a multi-valve engine, so on and so forth. And that there is it's a V12. I honestly really enjoy the EST50 a lot. I really think it's a very underrated IEM, and it is great fun. It is great fun. I know a few people that have it as well, and they agree with me. And it's one of those IEMs that the more you listen to it, you discover things about it. You really enjoy it. And it's the IEM out of all of them, funny enough, it's the one that where changing cables seems to, I mean, I tried a whole bunch of cable. Another cable that I actually tried on there, and I'll actually show it to you, is the Golden Body Pro from HAKUGEI, this cable. Honestly, I was impressed. I was truly impressed. This cable, I wasn't expecting to see much. I thought, okay, it's a pretty cable, looks good and so on and so forth. But it actually was able to bring out a little bit extra in the treble, which I was surprised, okay? Another cable, which is the one that I've been using quite a bit on it, but although it seems to just darken up the sound a little bit more, is the XINHS, this one. This XINHS cable, again for the price, which is around $80. Fantastic cable, which is about the same thing as the Body Pro from HAKUGEI. And then the vocal, for me, honestly, and now that I've tried all these 3, especially these 3 with more time, the vocal is the cable I think that should be matched with the EST50. The S8 I think works wonders with the H50. I'm going to see if I can get my hands on an AG8 just to give it a go. And the S8 for the H40 is the perfect match. Honestly, I really wouldn't touch. So yeah, guys, there you go. I think I've explained well the range. I think it's been able to give and shed light on what ISN is capable of doing, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us. Honestly, I'm very excited to see what they will have in store for the next couple of months, as I am excited for the new release from Penon, the 10th anniversary IEM. That must be something truly special. If they have done their work like they always do, because this has been in the process of development already for quite some time, it must be a nice IEM. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up from there. Okay, you take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section of this ISN mega comparison that I'm doing. Straight away, the first graph that we see is the D10. We're talking 15 dBs bass either way. So yes, of course, the mids will be recessed and so on and so forth. But funny enough, it actually does come together in a half decent manner. And if there is really an area where you notice that it doesn't follow through, doesn't keep up with the rest, is definitely the highs. They stop dropping off. They start dropping off at 5K, and they continue all the way. There's just enough, okay? Just out of pure curiosity, just for you guys to understand just how much bass we're talking about here. I'm just going to put a quick graph of something which I recently reviewed, and that's the graph of the legato. So it's got every bit as much bass as the legato. I would say the same quality, honestly. If there is a slight edging out of the legato on instances, it's just down to the fact that there's 2 drivers working there and not a single driver, okay? But if I have to take into consideration that I'm talking about a 9mm driver, okay, and it is a very high quality 9mm driver, otherwise it wouldn't be performing the way it is, and it's comparing itself to a 9 and to a 12mm driver in terms of overall bass response. And the thing is, and as I've said many times before, you see a smaller driver showing off too much bass and you think, oh, it's going to be a bass monster. An example of that, for example, is the HM20 from CCA exactly. And then when you listen to it, it doesn't correspond. Just because it's got the same bass response doesn't mean it's going to have the same bass volume. In the case of the D10, the volume keeps up very well with the legato, and the legato, like I said, only really edges it out very slightly. the difference is not as big as you would think. Anyway, this is not about the legato, this is about the D10. That's the D10. The next one that I'm going to show you now is the H30, and a completely different departure. I'm actually going to remove here the D10 for the sake of understanding better. So much smoother, much more relaxed presentation. I mean, we're talking everything from the, okay, we're talking 80 to 89, so 9 dBs roughly. You could say that this is a V-shaped signature, but in reality, when you listen to it, no, it isn't. Mids are beautifully executed, in my opinion. Only this area here is slightly more energetic than what it should be. So the upper mids presence area, let's put it that way. The treble here is a little bit overly energetic and can give you that little sensation that I've mentioned earlier. But I mean, I'm nitpicking, honestly, I'm really nitpicking, but this is smooth for, again, the sake of just a quick comparison. And those of you that do own or were able to ever hear the Acros Erasmus, this is the Erasmus, okay? And the Erasmus, as you can see, or the H30, as you can see rather, is very much like the Erasmus, very laid back, very chilled out. The difference is here, where the Erasmus maintains itself a little bit more tamer up in the upper end. The H30 is a little bit more alive. But other than that, beautifully done. I mean, really nothing that can be said. It's flat by 300 hertz. There's no bleeds, the mids, nothing. Very nicely done. Next one, H40. Let me just confirm here. Sorry. Yes, exactly, H40. And although in essence the mids are similar, and it's got that mids there of ISN, of Penon, and there is some treble energy. Yes, there is. There's more than enough treble energy, not as much as you would perceive here, and also this gets somewhat camouflaged by the monstrous amounts of bass that you have. I mean, this thing maintains itself at 93 dBs from basically 100 hertz down. It's got bass. It's got serious bass. Of course, with this amount of bleeding to the mids, things can not be the ideal. But truthfully, when you actually listen to it, you are quite surprised by how much it doesn't actually interfere with the mids. Okay, so that's the H40. This is now the H50, and I'm going to remove the H30 now. Let me just change here the color of the H50 to something that can stand out a little bit more. I'm going to make it red. There we go. So the H50, as you can see, the similarities between the two are very similar, or very big, and it's what I was saying. The H50 is a slightly more mellowed down, in my opinion, H40, with a better execution of the mids and definitely some highs there. The highs, in my opinion, are what I usually like, or what I ideally like to see, which is the maximum of that atmosphere area, of that brilliance, of that upper frequencies there, keeps itself more or less on par with the lowest of the bass of the mids. Okay, this makes sure, this will guarantee that everything is not overly done, not excessive. Okay, I mean, I really cannot say much more than that. This is an amazing sounding IEM. The H50 is unquestionably one of my favorite IEMs, and one of the nicest sounding IEMs I own. Okay, and I'm going to put the EST50, sorry, as well over here. Okay, the EST50, by looking at the graph this way, it perhaps doesn't correspond. So if I normalize it at 1 kilohertz, it doesn't correspond to the reality. I would say that in the case of the EST50, to normalize it at 500 hertz is a more correct indicator of what the EST50 actually sounds like. So again, that excessive mid-bass bump that you have on the H40 has been reduced, like on the H50. Let me actually take away that. We'll just leave the H50 and the EST. So it's been reduced, a little bit more bass extension, so loads of sub-bass, which is very noticeable. It's flat by 300 hertz, I mean, and then the pin again, very typical. I mean, you look at the H50, you look at the H40, EST50, you look at the H50, or you look at the H40, and the one common denominator is the way that everything is very relaxed in the pin again. Nothing, no aggressiveness, no peakiness, nothing. And this is what conveys this very easy, lush, old school kind of sound. You know, it's definitely that, and obviously the bass. But going back here to the EST50, beautifully done mids. I mean, honestly, beautifully done. Nothing to be said. Again, the highs, the execution of the ESTs on point with what should be. It basically maintain itself there with the lowest point of the mids. And I mean, I can't really complain. It sounds beautiful. It sounds just what you see like here. Everything has been done in a very much a mature manner, okay? For the sake of comparison, I'm just going to show you the MS5 compared to the H50, just for you guys, so you guys have an idea. Hide this, where are you? Here, baby. Hide this. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. So hide these. MS5 bass tip, bass filter, sorry, and bass tip. Okay, so it's bass filter, bass tip, this one. And now let me align this, and I'm gonna align it at 1 kilohertz. I'm going to normalize it at 1 kilohertz. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to normalize it at 500 because that's more corresponding to the truth. I think the similarities speak for itself. The bass is amazing on the MS5. That very sweet, very nicely done mids. Some people might consider it recessed. Honestly, I don't. I think it's fine. It doesn't make anything sound forward. Maybe the vocals of the female, female vocals can sound a little bit, but it's fine. And then yes, where you do notice that there is more treble and more energy up top, it's slightly indicated here by the graph. You wouldn't think that there is a difference which is as significant, but with this tip, the bass tip is the one that actually doesn't showcase it as much. If I put, for example, the high is in the where is it? Where is it? This one. If I put it on this tip, you can definitely see then what a lot of people were talking about the excessive energy that the MS5 has in the treble area that can be a little bit fatiguing. There you can definitely see it. And yes, in this particular case, if I compare it to the H50, yes, the MS5 is definitely way more energetic. Anyway, that's the MS5 out of the way, okay? And now finally, let me just put back the EST, okay? And for the sake of comparison, so that you guys can have a perception or better idea, let me just quickly show you here the Shure EJ07, and I'll show you as well the Moondrop. Okay, so Moondrop variations, here we go. And let me show you as well the Shure EJ07M, or Shure, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. Where is it? Here we go. I apologize, guys. I'm not really very good with these things of computers and so on. EJ07M. There we go. All right. Let me just take one out. Take that one out. Change the color here of the variations into red so that we can see it stand out. And normalize it at 500 hertz as well. There we go. Normalize at 500 hertz. What is the biggest difference that you notice between the variations and the EST? It's in the way that the mids here are more forward. Okay, that's it. Bass, honestly, difficult to notice. Mids are more forward, and then it's a question of you like that type of forward presentation or you don't like. Okay, other than that, I think if you like the variations, I'm pretty sure that you will find the sound of obviously if you're not a freak about freak in a good way about being having your vocals forward, but I think you will understand for the most what the sound of the EST50 is like. And then compared to the EJ07M, let me put this again in red so that it stands out. All right, EJ07M, and again, let's normalize it. The EJ07M sounds closer to the EST in the whole mid, the way that this is done sounds closer. The way the bass is done as well, it helps clean up a lot of the up top and give it a lot more detail. So you feel, you can sense that there's more technical capabilities present on the EJ07M, but it is not a huge difference. The technicalities that the EST50 is capable of doing are, in my opinion, more than fair, more than adjusted to the price tag that it has. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little review of mine. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. I wanted to do this for a long time, but I was waiting to have all the IEMs together. I'm just putting all the graphs back on there so you guys can have one final look. And that's it. As always, like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, you take care now. Bye bye.